do you think
Yeah.
oh, sorry, go ahead with that.
I was
Why
going to
did that
say,
happen?
why did that happen? It happened because, as we talked about on the last show where we discussed this, I think the Biden administration very skillfully conducted an information diplomatic campaign that stripped away from Putin all of the efforts that he was making to give himself any kind of informational cover and make it look like the Ukrainians had started this or prompted it or generate any ambiguity. And then he decided to just big fat invade anyway, without any kind of a fig leaf. And that has just made him so clearly the aggressor, even before he started rubbling Kharkiv
So
and
what do you
Ukrainian
think the
cities.
Biden administration did on that front that was particularly effective?
So along with the threat of sanctions, which was not effective in deterring him, the Biden administration did really work hard to learn about, to penetrate Russian plans, to conduct information operations, to conduct false flag attacks, to try to assassinate Zelensky, to try to conduct a coup d'etat. And they publicized what they learned. They really were very, very fast to declassify intelligence and publicize all of the Russian attempts to create this fictitious universe to gaslight us and persuade us that this is somehow Ukraine's fault and the Ukrainians had prompted this. And it was a very skillful campaign that the Biden administration ran. Now, I need to be careful. We need to be careful about over-crediting them, because I think that they did think that by doing all of that, they would deter Putin from attacking, because they were presenting him with the reality that he would have to go in without any informational cover. And at the end of the day, Putin decided he just didn't care and he was going to go in anyway. So that the campaign failed from the perspective of what it was, I think, intended to do, which was to deter him. But it did put him in this very bad spot where he's stripped of informational cover. He is nakedly the aggressor. And the international community, at least in the first week of this war, has largely, with a couple of notable exceptions, rallied against him in a way that we really haven't seen it rally against anyone since Osama bin Laden. And that's quite an accomplishment that Putin,
what do you think might have constituted a more appropriate strategy of deterrence, or let's say a more effective strategy of diplomacy that might have avoided this altogether? Or is that even possible?
Look, my view all along has been that if Putin was willing to conduct this invasion in order to achieve his aims, the only way that we were really going to deter him from doing that would have been by making it clear that we were going to fight with the Ukrainians and we were going to guarantee his military defeat. I don't think anything short of that.
And that's a tough game to play, because of course, the more that's put forward as the strategy, the more the fear, let's say, that's driving him of the West, of the westernization, perhaps, of Ukraine, the more that also appears justified in his eyes.
Yeah, I mean, candidly, I'm happy to discuss that with you, but candidly, that counter argument wasn't the one that impressed me the most, because he was already where he was on that. Putin is a guy who understands force. And although I and the team at the Institute for the Study of War have written for years about how clever he's been with information operations and hybrid war and lots of other things, at the end of the day, Putin understands force. And if you take force off the table and you tell him that he's not going to have to worry about a forcible response, that shapes his calculation in a certain direction. If you put force on the table and tell him that maybe he does have to worry about mixing it up with the American military or NATO, then that would have changed his calculation in a different direction. Mm-hmm. And I think at a minimum, because, by the way, I want to be very clear that I wasn't advocating, and I'm not advocating now, that we should have said that we would have gone into Ukraine and fought in Ukraine against the Russians. There was a very complicated series of decisions we needed to make here, and I'm not going to second guess the decision not to do that. I will say that it was, in my view, unfortunate that President Biden said and kept repeating that we would not fight in Ukraine, because I think that leaving ambiguity in Putin's mind on that question would have been a good idea. I don't know that it would have been sufficient, though, since he had decided that he was prepared to do this.
And